What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Big Blue in the Bronx YouTube channel. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Share it out as well, and also turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. So I'm going to try to do these one a day. We're going to start the roster bubble series now. Last year, I tried doing it, and I got a couple of candidates out, but I didn't get like the full list I wanted. And besides, we were already in training camp. So it's like which guys are getting cut already. You know, there's that 1 to 2 week period where you have to cut down from, I think, 90 to 85, and then 85 to 80, and then 80 to 53. So some of the guys I wanted to do were already gone, and it was a little bit of a bummer there. But I'm going to try to get ahead of schedule here. If I do my math correctly, we'll be in training camp by the time the series is already over. But as for the roster bubble series, what is it about? If you're new to the channel, how do I do it? So basically, in terms of the roster bubble series, I talk about one player who I believe is on the roster bubble, their competition, their background, and also how they can win their spot on the roster, how they can lose their spot on the roster. So we'll start out with candidate number one, and this guy really hasn't been talked about too much. Last year he was talked about in a bad way, though. Oshane Ximines. Oshane Ximines, outside linebacker, was drafted by the New York Giants in the third round out of Old Dominion in 2019 by Dave Gettleman. And as just a story for this guy, he showed some promise in his rookie year. And he had 4.5 sacks, total of 9 quarterback hits, 12 pressures, 5 tackles for loss. So he really showed something. Lorenzo Carter had the same amount of sacks as he did in his second year. So it was like, okay, Carter's disappointment, but at least we got Oshane Ximines. But at the same time, a lot of Giant fans were like, okay, so Carter disappointed us in his second year. I'm not going to expect too much from Oshane Ximines. But the next year, he did wind up getting injured the first few games in. And what stuck out to me is this. Throughout the first few games, other than the 49ers game in 2020, Oshane Ximines did not play over 50% of the snaps. And if you take a look at his career before we go to 2021 as well, if you look at his career, he's never played over 50% of the defensive snaps, whether that be injuries or this, that, and the other thing. Oshane Ximines a couple of times last year was actually a healthy scratch. They picked guys like Quincy Roche and some of the other cats they had at outside linebacker over Oshane Ximines. But let's stick to 2020. So he did have an injury in 2020 and didn't really do much in the time that he was given. 5 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, 3 quarterback hits, no sacks, and a total of 5 pressures. Now you go in 2021. Not many people have expectations for Ximines at this point. I think I predicted last year that he was going to be cut. He was definitely one of my candidates. I predicted that he was going to be cut, makes the roster, because it was weird. A lot of these guys that were brought in to defeat Ximines at the outside linebacker spot ended up being cut. There was a couple guys that went IR. Ifedi Odenigbo, he was extremely disappointing. So with that being said, Ximines gets another shot. And he played only 10 games last year. Once again, healthy scratch a little bit. 13 tackles, 2 quarterback hits, no tackles for a loss at all, and 4 pressures. That's not going to get it done. That is not going to get it done. And a lot of Giant fans can really see why he's fighting an uphill battle. Now, in terms of where he's at in his career, we already went over that. How about the competition? So, he is fighting with guys that were here the past 2 years, 1 to 2 years with Joe Judge. And we have to keep in mind as well, this is Oshane Ximines' 3rd coaching staff. So it's going to be very, very hard for Drew Wilkins and Wink Martindale to attach to this guy when they got younger guys coming in. They got Jihad Ward, who is one of the guys he's going to be competing with from Baltimore. And there's a couple other guys as well. Nico Lalos, I know he had that interception against the Bengals, was it 2 years ago? He also had a fumble recovery. And he had a decent end of the season in 2020. Didn't play in 2021, or barely, I should say. Jihad Ward, we already talked about that veteran presence. It seems like he's going to be a roster lock, in my opinion. I may or may not do a video on him because it seems like he's going to be that leader, the guy on the 1-year contract, trying to help out Oshane Ximines, and also a guy like Darian Beavers who can rush the passer, who can do a multitude of things, but was a late-round pick, so he's not going to be on the field right away. Ellerson Smith is also poised for another big year. Well, I should say, I can't say another big year, but he didn't really show flashes at the end of his rookie year. but he was selected in the 4th round out of Northern Iowa, I believe it was. And, first couple of games was injured, didn't really play in the preseason. Down the stretch, once again, played in blowouts. So, sometimes you could take from that, sometimes you really can't. And a lot of people are looking for him to make another step, to make a step up, I should say. I know the bad quoting in this video. But he is supposed to take that next step, and a lot of people are very excited for him because of what Wink does with the outside linebackers, freely rushing the passer, stuff like that. So we'll see what comes out of Alex Smith this year if he does make the roster. Who knows? He may not. Quincy Roche is another guy. He had 2.5 sacks last year, but he did a lot more for the New York Giants, it seemed, when it mattered, than Lorenzo Carter and Oshane Ximines. And this guy, he was selected, I believe, in the 6th round by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was cut. They were trying to put him on the practice squad. The New York Giants came up and swept him, and then he made a couple of impact plays for the Giants. I know he had a sack against Kansas City, I believe it was. He also had the game-winning sack against Las Vegas. So there's a lot of things that guy does. And then Tamon Fox. Now, I'm going to be real with you guys. I'm going to be real. Guys, I give my opinions 100% of the time, and they're my true opinions. I'm not that impressed with Tamon Fox. Like, I see his stats. Oh, he had 9 sacks for UNC last year, and I've watched a couple of games with him, and there's going to be a video coming out eventually. I haven't worked on it yet, but I'm working on just the pre-production of it, I should say, the film taking. I'm going to try to get a Giants content creator on. I have one in mind right now. Try to preview these undrafted free agents, at least the ones that could have a shot at making the roster. But Tamon Fox, in my opinion, really doesn't impress me. Once again, the sacks, great. He can be explosive, but at the same time, does he really impact the game? It's just, I don't know. For some reason, I don't get the hype with him. Then again, I would like to be totally wrong because I would like to see him blossom into a rotational piece on this defense. How can Oshane Ximines win his job? He's got to outplay the competition in camp, and he's got to stay healthy. He only had an injury-riddled season in 2020. He was healthy for basically both years. One was his rookie season, the other being that he was a healthy scratch a couple of times. He has to outplay that competition. He has to make impact in the preseason and, in practice as well in training camp, because if he doesn't do that, there's no shot. Right now, it's still an uphill battle, but he's got to outplay guys like Quincy Roche, Alex Smith, guys that really aren't connected to this coaching staff. And we all know, yes, Ximines is at the bottom of the food chain. The way it stands right now with the New York Giants, I think he was on like the 3rd or 4th team in minicamp. You could take some stuff out of it. I'm waiting till training camp to see where he ends up on the depth chart. But if he outplays a guy like Tamon Fox, if he outplays a guy like Nico Lelos, it still can happen. But it's a very, very uphill battle. He has to work his way up the depth chart by making those plays, staying healthy, and just outplaying the competition in camp. How can he lose? Staying quiet, falling behind younger, inexperienced players on the depth chart. Something that a lot of Giants content creators, including myself, talk about is this team is very inexperienced. We may have one of the younger teams in the NFL. But guys like Tamon Fox, they're not experienced. Alex Smith, he's not experienced. Quincy Roche, he's at the bottom of the food chain in terms of experience. But out of this competition, let's see, Oshane Ximines included, he's probably about the 3rd most experienced. 4th most, maybe. So you have Tamon Fox, who hasn't played it down yet. Then you have Alex Smith. Then you have Nico Lelos. Then you have Quincy Roche. Then you have Ximines. And you have Jihad Ward. So I would say right in the middle there probably would be Roche. But my point is that this is an inexperienced team. And especially in a linebacker group where the head will definitely be Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari and possibly Jihad Ward, that 4th, 5th spot's going to be open. I don't think he's going to keep less than 4 linebackers. I think he's going to get another one, which would be 5 or 6 outside linebackers. Then the inside linebackers would definitely be an interesting one to watch. We'll definitely do roster bubble series on some of those candidates on the inside linebackers, guys like Tate Crowder, guys like Carter Coughlin, and we'll go down the list there. Now, these videos aren't supposed to be very long, which obviously right now we are at about 9-10 minutes into the video. I usually come out with a prediction here, and I know, yes, it's June. We're not supposed to, do these way too early predictions, right? Oshane Ximines I have getting cut this year. On my my predictions, and I have way too early predictions set aside for myself, which is the way I usually come out with these predictions, because I'm like, oh my God, is this guy going to make the roster? Is he going to make, this guy going to make the roster? Whatever. I don't have Ximines making the roster. Guys like Quincy Roche and Ellerson Smith may outplay him. Jihad Ward is probably a lock on the roster, once again being a leader. And maybe Tamon Fox beats him out as well. But I think Ximines has put himself in this situation, not really playing well, not living up to the hype of a third-round pick. And I understand it's a small school thing. He came from Old Dominion. But maybe he'll find a spot with another team. We'll see what happens. Some team will probably pick him off waivers. But for Oshane Ximines, in terms of prediction, I have him getting cut at the end. Or possibly maybe in the middle. But at the end of the preseason, I have him getting released. But be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to turn on post notifications so you know when the live stream pops through drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Peace out. See you later. Stay cool.